Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Week 10 fantasy football here in the Parable of Henry Ruggs. You know what we're going to be doing today? We're going to be looking at matchups. We're previewing some matchups for this upcoming week. Also going to look at playoff projections and also look at the standings after this past week, week 9. We actually had a game this week that was decided after the fact. We had some controversy, some stat corrections that took place after the game had ended. One team thought they won, but then the whistle blew. The officials went back to look at the monitor, realized there was a problem with the scoring, and the other team actually won the game. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But for right now, here's the standings we're going to take a look at. Once again, the Devengers and Pig Six just setting themselves apart in this league. Just absolute dominance, just complete display of efficiency and consistency from both of these teams. The Devengers right now with the advantage in the head-to-head matchup versus Pig Six, but two 8-1 teams. I'm sure Pig Six wants a rematch. We might see that in the playoffs. Who knows? We'll see. Madison Beer's daddy, big win this weekend against Ruggs and Alcohol. They are now the only 6-win team, and they're solely in third place. And then we've got 6 teams that are fighting for their lives, fighting for some playoff spots. 6 teams at 5-4. So we've got a 6-way tie for 4th place. Keep in mind this is a 6-team playoff bracket. 6 teams make it in. So we're going to see in the coming weeks how these teams can separate themselves from each other. And then after that, we've got Cooper Swag, Swisher Sweets, and the Benson Boars at 4-5. Trying to get back up there, trying to get into that playoff picture. Very low odds for both of those teams, but we'll see if they can make a run at it. It's not too late for them, but for these next 2 teams, I'm afraid it is. The Tomato Town Terrorists at 2-7. Now here's a guy at 1-8. Their season, pretty much over. 1% chance to make the playoffs. At this point, they're just trying not to lose the fantasy league. So they still have something to play for, but yeah, as far as winning it goes, they're not playing for that anymore. They're just fighting for their life out here. The Avengers and Pig Six with a 98% chance to make the playoffs. They're pretty much in. Everybody else, though, for the most part, mostly a toss-up. Madison Beer's daddy has a 70% chance to make the playoffs, so they're not like they're not like 100% in the playoffs, but they've got a pretty good shot now of making the playoffs, and everybody else is pretty much 50-50. So yeah, that's how we're looking so far in the standings. This week's playoff standings are presented to you by Ollie's. Good stuff, cheap. All right. Now, before we talk about this week's playoff standings, we're actually going to talk about last week's playoff standings post Week 8. So here they are, the standings post Week 8 for the playoffs. No surprise, the 1 and 2. Dak D's Nuts Neil Mouth at 3. Ruggs and Alcohol at 4. Michael Penix at 5. And App is Stupid at 6. That was the standings post Week 8. Here are the standings post Week 9. All right, look at the changes. All right, we've got, of course, the 1 and 2 seeds, no change. And then the 3 seed, Madison Beer's daddy, going from the 7 seed on the outside looking in to all of a sudden a 3 seed, one of the higher seeds in the playoffs. They've got to feel a lot more comfortable about their positioning now in this league, especially knowing that they're the only team with a 6-3 record. All the other teams are fighting mostly at the 5-4 spot, with the 5-4 record, excuse me. So they've got to feel a lot better about their positioning now, record-wise, and also in the playoff standings, with a 70% chance to make the playoffs. Dak D's Nuts in Your Mouth, they dropped down 1 spot. They're now at the 4 seed. Evan team actually now rising up to the 5 seed. They were out of it last week. Now they're in it at the 5 seed. And Ruggs and Alcohol dropping from the 4 seed to the 6 seed now in these playoffs. Also important to mention a few teams that dropped out of the playoffs completely. App is Stupid, led by head coach Rex Green, who made the playoffs in last week's standings, fell out of it this week. And also Michael Penix and Caleb Jackson, after suffering a horrible loss to the Benson Boars, just an awful, really disappointing loss for this team. They fall out of the playoffs now. They're on the outside looking in. They are now at the 7 seed. So Yeah, that's how the playoff picture looks now. We'll see how it changes in the coming weeks. And last thing before we get into this week's matchups, Week 10 matchups, I want to go ahead and talk about this game right here. Huge game last week, Rugs and Alcohol versus Madison Beers Daddy. This game was huge for playoff implications. Both these teams had been struggling. Both of these teams were 5-3 going into this matchup. Huge matchup here. And after the game, it looked like Rugs and Alcohol had won. They were winning by, I don't remember an exact number, but it was about like 1 point. It was not much at all. So they had been given the victory, and then after the game, the refs went back, they rolled the tape back, they looked at the monitor, and the Chargers defense for Rugs and Alcohol turns out didn't do as good as they thought. They took some points away from the Chargers defense, and all of a sudden, Madison Beers Daddy walked out with the victory. Fans for Rugs and Alcohol are irate. They're questioning if it's rigged, and I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, how does that happen? Like a stat correction for the defense suddenly, like the day after the fact. I mean, this just, I don't know. Poorly officiated game. Clearly, no matter how you look at it, whether you think they should have made the correction or not, just poorly managed by the fantasy scores, the fantasy scoring team. Rugs and Alcohol has to be wondering if this game is rigged. Especially, I mean, they're just so frustrated. They've lost their last 2 games, now 3 after this week. They've got to wonder if Madison Beers Daddy and head coach Noah Linville, if they slid the refs, some money under the table. I mean, like, what happened? Like, how did this just suddenly happen? Like a whole day after the fact. I mean, they're asking all kinds of questions. But Madison Beers Daddy, I mean, hey, kudos to them. They had lost 3 of their last 4, but they pick up a huge win here, and all of a sudden now it's looking like they got a 70% chance to make the playoffs. I did look at Rugs and Alcohol while they had the win, and if they had won this game, they would have an 80% chance to make the playoffs right now. But now they have a 55% chance. So their chances go down significantly. It's not like this game puts them out of the playoffs, but now things are hanging in the balance a little bit more for them in this team as far as their playoff hopes are concerned. So this is an outcome to keep an eye on, definitely, as the season goes forward. If Rugs and Alcohol does not make the playoffs, I mean, they're going to go back and they're going to look at this game and they're going to point the finger at these fantasy scorers. And with our first matchup of Week 10, we have, now here's a guy taking on Michael Penix. Okay, Michael Penix now at 5-4. Now here's a guy at 1-8. Now here's a guy, I mean, it's been a disappointing season for them, obviously. 1 win, only win against Tomato Town. So not even an impressive win at that. They haven't gotten anything going. I mean, they haven't. They've tried. They've made trades. They've made claims. Nothing's working for this team. Don't know what's up. They just can't figure it out. And they're taking on Michael Penix, a team that's been explosive offensively, but last week they just, I don't know, they crapped the bed. I mean, they played awful. They took on the Benson Boars. And to the Benson Boys' credit, they haven't been that good this season, but they played good last week, scoring 120 points. But Michael Penix, they were still projected to beat them. They still should have, honestly, in my opinion. They didn't show up. They scored only 100 points. They were projected about 130. They didn't play their best, and they lost. They got outplayed by the Benson Boars. So give credit to the Benson Boars, but they didn't show up last week, Michael Penix. They didn't. They need to show up this week, and they need to win this game. They are out of the playoff picture right now at the 7th seed. They need to win this one. This is important. If they lose this game, then now here's a guy. I mean, it's not gonna look good for them, especially for their playoff hopes. So I think that lock in. Give me Michael Penix to win this game. And with our next game of Week 10, we've got Dak D's Nuts in Your Mouth taking on Madison Beers Daddy. Madison Beers Daddy, the 6-3 team. Dak D's Nuts in Your Mouth, 5-4. Madison Beers Daddy, I mean, they've got, especially after last week, they've got an advantage now in this league. bunch of teams being at 5-4, about 6 teams at 5-4 right now, and they're at 6-3. They've got the advantage, they've got the upper hand, but they want to keep things that way this week, especially going up against another team that's 5-4. This is a big game here, obviously, for playoff implications. They really want to win this game. And if your Dak D's nuts in your mouth, after last week losing to the Devengers, they only dropped one spot. They went from the 3 seed to the 4 seed. But, I mean, if they lose this game, it could get worse. I mean, they could drop out of the playoff picture entirely. I mean, they need to win this game if they want to stay in the picture. This is a bigger game for Dak D's nuts in your mouth versus Madison Beer's daddy. I think they're a little bit more focused and honed in on this game than Madison Beer's daddy is. I think they might be getting a little too comfortable. Give me Dak D's nuts in your mouth to win this game. With the next matchup of Week 10, we've got Cooper Swag, Swisher Sweets, taking on No Mo Juice. A big game last week from the Swisher Sweets. They dropped 149 points, a season high scoring-wise against Now Here's a Guy. Just unlucky again for Now Here's a Guy, by the way. Just they have not gotten the luck of the draw in terms of their matchups and the timing of their matchups. Once again, going up against a team who has a legacy game against them. Anyways, the Swisher Sweets coming off a week where they dropped 149 points, 43 of those from Brock Bowers. Huge performance from him. But they're going up against No Mo Juice, who has won their last 3 games, started the season 2-4, and now they're 5-4. Now they're looking like a playoff hopeful in this league. They're looking like they belong in this league. They have not been really favored in their last 3 matchups, but they've managed to get the win. And in this one, they are favored, actually. They're favored to win by just a little bit. It's still though, it's going to be a good game. I mean, the Swisher Sweets, they've got Sam Darnold, and they've got Brock Bowers healthy in the lineup. It's going to be a good game, but I just think in terms of the coaching, Connor Stutes for No Mo Juice, he's been more into this league. He's been making waiver claims, and he's really put forth some effort. Cooper Atkins, on the other hand, he kept some guys that were inactive last week in his lineup. He's got 2 kickers on his team. He's got 3 guys on IR on his team. One of them's out for the season, just keeping them around and for Lord knows what. I don't know. But anyways, it seems like he just doesn't care that much. Is Connor Stutes. Connor Stutes has his heart into this more. Give me No Mo Juice to win this game. In our next matchup of Week 10, we've got Evan Team taking on the Devengers. Devengers, one of the most dominant teams in the league so far, at 8-1, taking on Evan Team at 5-4. This game it's going to be a really good game. Evan Team's been getting hot recently, but we've got, of course, one of the staples in this league. I mean, just a true model of consistency in the Devengers. Gonna be a really good game, but I think we're underestimating the skill and the scoring that Evan Team has been putting on here recently. Their players, they've got Kyron Williams and Breece Hall in the backfield. And the Devengers, they've got J.K. Dobbins and Rico Dowdle, but I don't think they have anything on Breece Hall and Kyron Williams. And also the tight end play right now of Trey McBride for Evan Team. I think that's going to be the difference maker. Give me Evan Team to get the upset in this game. In our next matchup, we got App is Stupid taking on Pig 6. App is Stupid at 5-4, Pig 6 at 8-1. What can I say about this matchup? We've got App is Stupid on the outside looking in at the playoffs, just on the outside looking in. And Pig 6, of course, the 2 seed in this fantasy league. Once again, just a true model of consistency from this team. In most circumstances, I would pick Pig 6, but something to keep an eye on with the trade deadline happening this week. Rashid Shaheed, who plays for App is Stupid, he was traded from a struggling Saints offense to a thriving Seattle offense. And he has a deep ball threat at any time. He's playing with Sam Darnold, one of the hottest quarterbacks in the NFL right now. If he's able to get adjusted to this offense very quickly and become adept, then he could be a big-time scorer for them this coming Sunday. He could be huge for them, actually. I'm not sure if he has time, though, to make that adaptation and get accustomed to playing with Sam Darnold, though. So Honestly, I'm going to stick with pick six. I'm sticking with pick six. I mean, they've been so good all season long. Give me pick six to win this matchup. In our last game of Week 10, we have the Tomato Town Terrorists taking on Rugs and Alcohol. Head coach Brady Thomas versus coach Noah Bonzel. Two guys that know each other very well, going head to head. Clean, old-fashioned hate. Doesn't get any better than this. Let's get into it. We've got Bijan Robinson and DeAndre Swift for the Tomato Town Terrorists versus Josh Jacobs and Ashton Genty of Rugs and Alcohol. Also got to mention Travis Etienne, a very solid third running back option. As far as the matchups go, I mean, Tomato Town is projected to win right now, but I'm just not sure. I know Rugs and Alcohol, they're down Travis Kelce, and they're down Patrick Mahomes, but I mean, I just think this team just has. I mean, they don't have the better receivers than Tomato Town. Excuse me. They don't have the better receivers in my eyes. I think Cortland Sutton and Rome Odunze clear the receivers for Rugs and Alcohol, and Deebo Samuel and McMillan. But I mean, the backfield for Rugs and Alcohol just sounds far superior than the backfield for Tomato Town. So honestly, I'm picking Rugs and Alcohol to win this game. Also, we've got the Benson Boars on bye week this week. Benson Boars coming off a game last week in which they scored 120 points and a huge victory for them over Michael Penix, one of the best teams in the league. Something that not many people expected for sure. I mean, just what else can you say? I mean, they showed up at a very good time, this team did. So, huge win for them. Much needed bye week for them. Well deserved. So, yeah, we'll see how they perform in the coming weeks. And that's going to be it for this Week 10 preview here in the Parable of Henry Ruggs. Make sure to pay attention, follow along, keep up with the scores, watch plenty of football this weekend. And we'll be back for a Week 11 preview next week. I'm your host, Brady Thomas, here in the Parable of Henry Ruggs. We'll see you next time.